Krishna.
Thank you. That's Greg. If you just joined us for the first time, that was Radhe Sham with his wife Pavana opening our weekly Salt Lake City Zoom call with a kirtan from Tooele. I'm here down in Spanish Fork and it's cold outside.
Oh, we got a lot of snow last night.
Kapilji is there with his sons, Shivan and Ishan, as well as who else have we got? We got Rob also. And both Greg and Rob are on board because of the wisdom of the sages, Raghunath and Kaustubha. So, generally, before we launch into the verse, we ask everyone to just share something that's happened to them in the previous week. And I just want to share that, it just seems like Raghunath is just popping up all over the place, everywhere I turn. It's wisdom of the sages, Raghunath, and so that's probably the most striking, salient thing that's jumped out at me throughout the past week. In fact, the past few weeks. In fact, we were talking about taking their icon, that line drawing of the sage with the top knot and all, making a little flyer and just passing them out to anyone under 40 that visits the temple. So my kudos, my obeisances, my pranams to Raghunath and Kaustubha for all the cultivation they're doing. And I'm going to ask Kapil and Pavana and everybody to share, but while it's fresh in my mind and while we're on the topic, Greg, can you just tell us a little bit about, I'm curious to know, Greg just attended a retreat hosted by Raghunath in Colombia. And I know Raghunath has hosted a lot of retreats in India, but how did it happen that he hosted a retreat in Cali, Colombia, and what was it like? What were some of the highlights? You want to share, Greg?
Yeah, it was really awesome. They closed down India, so they were looking for other places to go to, and he remembered an old friend who started an ashram in Cali, Colombia that he'd never been to before. And so he went there, and it was just I went in knowing hardly anything, and it was just a really immersive experience, and had amazing kirtan. And he filmed a couple of them and put them on YouTube with lyrics. So just all the people there, the association, just everything was so incredible. And I just want to keep that ball rolling here in Utah. And I texted, or I sent a message to Raghunath telling him that you said hey, and he said, what did he say? Tell him I would love to come, and told him, and tell him that I hold him in the highest respect. He's a special soul. Any questions you have about spiritual life, go to him. He's not ordinary. So um, we'll have to keep in touch with Raghunath and try to get him here for the Festival of Colors or something.
Yeah, and did you know we've had lots of retreats here in Spanish Fork too?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Raghunath never hosted them, but we had about 9 retreats here. I'm not sure what year it was, maybe 2010, 2011. We found the best retreat months are April and October because the weather's still good and there's not too many things going on competing with your time. And we had between 12 and 22 people here each time. They paid like $250 for the weekend. They lived on site. We had cooking class. We had Lama hike with sandwiches and Bhagavad Gita discussion. We had 5 yoga classes. We had a Saturday night kirtan with a really good band headed up by Jai Krishna. We would bring a yoga teacher from Newport Beach. His name was Alan Siegel. Really good, really personable. They were all successes. We asked people to rate every element of the retreat on a scale of 1 to 5, accommodation, yoga classes, food, Lama hike, cooking class, and pretty much everything was 5 across the board. And we probably hosted, during those 9 retreats, we probably hosted, 150, 170 people. But so yeah, we've proven that this can be a great retreat spot. Only thing is, we just got too busy with the Festival of Colors after that, and kind of. Uh,
Well, maybe we can bring it back. I mean, it was such a life-changing experience for me, and I'm sure it's the same for people who go to the one in Spanish Fork.
yeah, we should. We definitely should do that. That'd be fantastic. Were there any co-hosts down there with Raghunath?
Not necessarily co-host. He was there were actually what's the other guy's name on Wisdom of the Sages?
Kustuba.
Kastuba, yeah. Kastuba was supposed to come, but there were some issues with his passport, and then his family was supposed to come, and there was some issue with their passports. And so he brought in some people kind of last minute, and it was just really magical. Damodar Priya and her husband
Yeah,
were there.
yeah, I know them. I think they're down in New Mexico or someplace, or Arizona.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure exactly where they are, but they have a little daughter, Amelina, and they were just like so special to have there, and just all the people. Doyal was there from the Bhakti Center in New York, and it was
Awesome,
just a really good
awesome.
group of people.
Rob, you ought to think about going on one of those sometime. Does your job allow some time off at all to go for a week or two to one of Raghunath's retreats? Are you there,
Yeah,
Rob?
I do farming, so I'm off all winter.
You do
And I would
farming?
love to go, but
You do
yes,
farming,
yes, I
like
do, Prabhuji.
professionally?
Um, I don't know if I'd call myself professional, but I do have some skill at it.
Wow, a real live farmer. I don't know if I've ever met one of those. They're like a dying breed. Of course, we have about 3/4 of an acre under cultivation, and we work very closely with the Permaculture Guild. They take one whole field, soccer field, up at our property in Salt Lake, and they grow a lot of things. They have a CSA, they have a greenhouse and all. So we're definitely into
Oh, that's
farming.
excellent. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, gosh, I can't believe. Have you met Randy?
I might know if I see his face. I don't recall the name
Oh, you have to
particularly
meet
though.
Randy. Oh, Randy's the man. He grows, he takes care of all the growing, he coordinates the volunteers and everything. He's just a really nice fellow. He was just sitting,
I'd love to meet him.
he was sitting 3 tables away from you last night. Yeah, I've got to introduce you to Randy. Yeah, we are so into farming. I mean, we are so into farming. We have, we're connected with Wolfers, Worldwide Opportunity for Organic Farmers, and we're also Workaway and Help Exchange. So right now we have like 6 volunteers from all over the place. They work 4 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 hours a day for room and board. And most of what they do is farming. Even during the winter, we're tilling, we're fertilizing, getting the irrigation pipes all blown out and cleaned out for the spring. Man, this is like, wow, made my day. Okay, so Rob, what happened to you this week that you want to share with us? They say if it was a good thing, it doubles your joy. If it was a sorrow, it cuts it in half by sharing it with friends. So either way,
Um, I suppose I can probably tie the two together fairly well. We spoke briefly last night. That's probably the biggest thing on my mind is going through the conflict of custody resolution with my son's mom, which for some reason a couple of days ago took a very downward turn. We were trying to be amicable and flexible, and she just kind of turned a new leaf, like to the point where I was like, I didn't even feel like I knew who she was. Her behaviors and everything just really became very negative, uncompromising, inflexible, and very incompassionate. And I took it upon myself to try and fight for my rights with my son legally, and it was not going very well. She was very immovable on the points of visitation and things like that. Despite her words being contrary previously, it was like something had happened. I'm not sure entirely what, but I was struggling with taking control, and trying to enforce my rights that she was trying to take away. And it wasn't going very well.
So yesterday's talk
It was
hit
causing-
home, right? Rule
Yes,
your
exactly.
space. That was like made for you, huh?
It definitely felt like it. It was, I mean, the timing could not have been better. Krishna really knows what he's doing. And so very often happens with the messages I receive through the classes and things that I've been participating in. So that was, kind of a negative experience that really ruffled my feathers a lot and put me in a place of being disturbed and frustrated and upset. I've done pretty well with not holding anger against her, but not having frustrations and disappointments and even resentments has been very difficult. But after going to the class last night, it really changed my perspective pretty radically. I'd love to say it was a 180, but unfortunately I'm still mired in material attachment. And so it wasn't a full 180, but pretty close, maybe a 120, getting closer to being on the right path. And it really uplifted my outlook incredibly. And I was able to make some peace and just concede to what she was doing because there was no way I could control the situation. She has custody of my son now, so it's not like I really have no control over the situation. And so making peace with that and having faith that Krishna will step in and he will create the situation as it needs to be, and let him fight the battle for me and just find peace within and within, at his lotus feet.
Yeah, and
So
I have a
that was,
feeling that the more
kind of
peace you
positive, negative.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that the more peace you find and more satisfaction you find through Krishna consciousness, the more she'll come around. And you can pray for her and pray for her son, but we can't change other people. We can just change ourselves, and we can pray that Krishna from within the heart changes them. So I think your best chance is to control your own space in the best way you can. And I think that when she sees that, she's gonna come around. But again, all we can do is do what we can do, and then let Krishna do what he can do. But if we don't do what we can do, then we can't expect Krishna to do what he can do. Does that make any sense? All right.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Super. Como, what happened to you this week that's of note? Can you share something with us that sticks out in your mind from the last 7 or so days?
Oh,
And you're welcome to editorialize on it too a little bit if you want.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, in the last week, I think so we've started. I'm not reading it; I'm listening, but I'm listening to the Ramayana being spoken. So I think that is. I've seen it over television, but I haven't really heard somebody speak it as a story. So I think that's very nice. It's yet in progress. We are yet reading and listening. So it's a very different experience. And it's nice because we tend to pay attention to so many details of the character of each individual. And there's so much that we don't know. And there's so much to learn from the examples. So that's something I look forward to and I'm excited about.
Wonderful, wonderful. Super. Let's go to... Let's see, we're going to circle back to Pavana Radhe Sham for the verse, I think. Kapilji, you and your 2 wonderful sons there. What's up? What's up?
There's so many good things, and we also know that there are a lot of friends and family members who are not doing good. So it is a week full of mixed emotions, I would say. But I think I echo what Komal said, that sometimes when you read scriptures, we have seen those stories in television, but when you read them, and I think that is one of the main message from the verse that we are going to read today from Bhagavatam, that it's about the message, it's about the company in which you discuss and share the message, and ultimately it's about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. speaking of Ramayana, one of the finest, I don't think the finest is the right word. I would say it's the most transcendental love story that we are reading right now. And we are at a stage where the emotions are at the pinnacle, talking about the separation that Lord Rama is experiencing right now. So, and we are doing it regularly. That's the other piece that we are going to discuss, part of our Bhagavatam class. It's the message, the regularity, the company, and the focus of that message that we are reading this week. So, Prabhu, reading the scriptures with our friends, family, or friends who are like family is the best thing this week.
Kapil's never missed one of these sessions. We started so many months ago with COVID, and he's made every single one. Ishan usually has a nice contribution too. Anything?
I think mine has been a very different set of mixed emotions. So the whole week, as far as like school and studies goes, it was going pretty well. Thursday, so we had a debate tournament this weekend. Thursday morning, I found out that there's some issues and that I won't be able to compete. And it was super last minute, like I'd already paid for the tournament and everything. So I spent like all of Thursday and the beginning of Friday trying to get that issue fixed. And then as soon as we get it fixed, I'm like super happy. We go to this tournament, and this is like the last tournament we have before.
This is debate,
state.
right? A debate tournament?
Yeah, this is debate. Yeah, so this is the last tournament we're gonna have before region and state. So this is kind of our last chance at like some national recognition. And it was a relatively easy tournament. If you looked at like the entries, there were only like 18. Our first two matchups are against the like genuinely the two best teams that are going to this tournament, which we lost, but we weren't that mad because like as long as we won our rounds yesterday, like Saturday morning, we would be fine. First round, we're going up against a very, very bad team, but we had an even worse judge, and we lost that round. So, but so
it's on Facebook.
It's okay. So, and then we weren't particularly happy, but then our last two rounds, we knew that like, even if we lost these rounds, or even if we won them, nothing would happen. So we decided to try the best, like the absolute comedy strategies, just to see like what we can do with them. And so it became really fun at the end because we were just trying different strategies. So like, it was a roller coaster ride this weekend for me.
Shivan, you have anything you want to share?
Not that much. I was just like learning some new kirtans on the harmonium this weekend, and Govinda Bhakta Prabhuji gave us Govinda Bhakta Prabhuji. Govinda Bhakta Prabhuji gave me a book called The Hidden Glories of India, and we're reading that every day.
That's a good book. I've read that myself. Really good. Pavan and Radhe Shyam, what's up? Anything to share?
I have a client, and I saw her. She's like one of my favorite, most brilliant clients I have. And
Pavan is a psychologist. She's a consulting psychologist.
And about 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and her doctor didn't give her a lot of hope. And then she kind of just disappeared from me. And I thought, oh no, what happened to her? I hope she didn't die. I mean, I had been these thoughts going on for the last 3 years. She called me on Thursday and said, hi, I want to come back in. I'm good. I'm healthy now. And I was just so happy that she's going to be okay.
Nice. Have you had your first session with her yet?
Tuesday afternoon. I can't wait.
Okay. All right. Let us know if you get her chanting Hare Krishna or not.
I'm going to work on
it. Radhe Shyam, got anything in the back there? The back of the room?
I can say something, but generally touched what's going on in your life. So the what happened in Caru is also interesting to religion. For the years, I'm preparing some books for printing in one PVT. So there are some medium people who are like this manager, this manager. So I prepare it, and I'm like 2 years ago I said I prepare it, I'm ready, printing. So the people say, "Oh, we need just your files." I'm sending. Then I realized they were just some of the people just were getting my works. So I was listening yesterday your class evening. You were telling you should not let anyone to enter into your life and just. And then I was thinking, yes, it should be, but I already sent. I'm scammed. So they say they will find some other translators. I say, then why you are taking mine? That's plagiarism.
Right.
So it's I don't see any justice. People are doing that. And this manager. Then I'm saying, if you want to take your start, please do it. I'm happy for that. But the problem is they want to take and to give it to somebody. So yesterday I was listening to your lecture how to apply it. And okay, I should be happy. I should not let, but I'm already cheated. All my work that done is gone in somebody's hand, and and you cannot prove it.
These aren't translations of Prabhupada's books. It's something personal.
No, it's Prabhupada's books.
Prabhupada's books. And there are some medium managers who say, one says this, one says this, says we prepare this time, I'm preparing the books. Then they, okay, now send, you will check now. Then I'm think that there is nothing going on, and I said that like main director, and so I said, what's going on? Is it in Hare Krishna also some people like scammers, like in the role of like taking some position, entering, then acting like a scammers? I don't know.
Well, I'm glad at least you brought us around to Prabhupada's books. Sarabi, Mataji, do you want to?
Everyone.
Hare Krishna. It's always good to see your smiling face, or not. Can you read the verse? Can you read the verse for us today?
Yeah, sure.
I know you have a recently acquired set of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So.
Right. So text 18, right?
This is first canto, second chapter, 18th verse.
Yeah. Nashta praye bhadreshu nityam bhagvat sevaya bhagvat yukt shloke bhakti bhavati nashtika. By regular attendance in classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service on to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Do you want me to go to the purport as well?
Yeah, can you read the first paragraph of the purport and add any comments that come to mind as well?
Here is the remedy for eliminating all the inauspicious things with the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of Bhagavatas. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book of Bhagavat and the devotee of Bhagavata. Both the Bhagavatas are the competent remedies, and both of them or either of them can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavata is as good as the book Bhagavat, because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in the term of the book Bhagavata, and the book Bhagavata is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees who are also Bhagavatas. Bhagavat book and the person are identical.
Any comments you'd like to make on that?
The only thing is, like, I'm in love with this class, and I can't wait to get onto the class every Sunday. Since I joined, I never missed one.
So what persons have been, instrumental in directing you towards a more spiritual viewpoint? And specifically within iskcon, either here or in India, remotely or physically?
So I think there was an influence from my parents for sure, because they were also iskcon devotees. And as I mentioned previously, I live very close to Mathura Vrindavan. So that has definitely some effect on my mind and my parents, my grandparents, and also the convenience of iskcon temple right here in Salt Lake City, for sure. And all the devotees I come across, I feel they are pure, God-loving people. So, like, their association is very precious to me.
Wonderful. Did your parents do things like Govardhan Parikram and like that?
Yeah. Yeah, my mom went recently again, and she was very happy to go do the parikrama.
Did they ever take you as a youngster?
Yes, many times.
Oh, wow. No wonder that
Yeah,
you have such an affinity for bhakti.
thank you.
Rishabdev says, Piti na syat janininya syat devim na syat namochadya samupetamitum. It's the duty of the parents, the teachers, and the leaders to make their constituents God conscious. That's their main duty. It's not about economic development or even education. It's about making them God conscious. So kudos to your parents who seem to have done a good job of that.
Thank you.
Now, I think the obvious focus would be on persons who have brought us to the path. And we heard from Greg. Do you want to add a little extra something about, the Bhagavatam is the Bhagavatam. It's nectar. It's the spiritual world. It's Krishna and sound vibration. But we don't really get, our interest doesn't really quicken until we meet someone who's practicing the Bhagavad. And that's obviously true in the case of Greg and Rob's instance. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about how, through devotees, you got more interested in the book Bhagavatam? And then we'll go to Govinda Dev.
My first book actually was the Krishna book, and just like really fell in love with Krishna. And then when I went to the retreat, everybody was saying like, oh yeah, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, like that was what really changed my life. And I was like, I really need to read this thing. So yeah. And seeing like how it had changed their life and hearing their story and how they'd come to Krishna consciousness and everything was really inspiring.
And where and from whom did you get your first Krishna book, and when? Where, when, and who?
I got it from Paki at the Salt Lake Krishna Temple 3 days before the retreat. She also gave me the Perfection of Yoga and some beads and taught me the Maha Mantra. And then when I came back, I was like, I gotta get a Bhagavad Gita. And Venkat was there. He only stayed there for 2 weeks. I don't know if you met him, but he gave me the Bhagavad Gita as it is and gave me like a special sacred old copy of it that's no longer made. So that was really cool.
We're lucky because we have so many sweet souls there in the Salt Lake City Center. It's just you can't drop by and not be touched by the care and concern and solicitousness and graciousness with which they host all the visitors. I was there this morning chanting japa, and Sundari Priya Paki was there. She got up 3 times on 3 different occasions to greet people who are arriving, to give. She came to you. In fact, when you were going out into the lobby, you were in the restroom. She stood there for. You were in the restroom for a long time. I don't know what you were doing, but anyway, she stood there for the longest time, just waiting for you to come out so she could give you some prasadam, say nice words to you, and all like that. So, I watched Paki this morning, and I had a realization that it's more important to take care of the guests than it is to take care of yourself. I mean, our formula is to make your life successful and then make others' lives successful. But when there's a choice between taking care of a guest or a visitor or seeing them off, giving them prasadam when they're ready to leave, and just focusing on the ongoing practice of your own bhakti, it's always the better choice to take care of the guests. And Sundari Priya is like so there. She's so there. Wonderful. Good.
Yeah, she's been pivotal in my experience through all this. So
Fantastic.
really appreciate her.
Yeah, we're going to Salt Lake on Tuesday. We have to get our shots, our second shot at the county building between 8 and 9, and then we're going to install Bhai Bobby's picture, which I delivered up there yesterday, her painting of Lord Chaitanya. And then she's going to meet with Sharma. Sharma's got his big Shiva statue going on there in Bihar, and he's leaning on Bhai Bobby for help. So we're going to meet with him about 11. And then we're going to Paki's new house from 1 to 4. And Lord Jagannath is going to be transferred from the temple to there. We're going to welcome him, have some prasadam. And then we're going to have to stay till after dark on Tuesday because Bhai has solar-powered lights, which are meant to illuminate the dome. So we have to see and position those just correctly. So we're looking forward to welcoming Lord Jagannath to Sundari Priya's new place of residence, and we're hoping that she'll, in spite of moving her domicile somewhere outside of the temple, that she'll still be able to spend mega amounts of time at the temple because she's just the perfect hostess. Rob, what was it, just online, or did you have any physical contact with devotees around the time you stumbled upon Wisdom of the Sages? In case you don't know it, Rob's listened to over 300 episodes of Wisdom of the Sages.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just encountered it on Spotify. It was a Krishna miracle for sure. About halfway through last year is when I stumbled upon it, and it was just a recommended podcast. And the only podcasts I'd listened to before that were farming podcasts. So it really had nothing to do with what I was listening to on Spotify by any means. And I wasn't really into much spirituality at the time. And I just listened to the first episode, which is learning how to surf. And with some of the stuff that was going on with me, it was like, oh yeah, I need to adopt this type of mentality. And the charisma and ease with which they make bhakti accessible on the show, really, it just kind of clicked with me. I was like, I need to keep listening to this. And then I basically just started binge listening to it for a while. And then a few months later, I had some pretty catastrophic tragedies happen in my life that, had I not been prepared by Krishna through that podcast, I could have definitely gone to a very, very bad place. But instead, I was actually able to step up and be a rock for some people that were really struggling with loss. And it also really helped me accept what had happened. A dear friend and spiritual brother of mine had passed away in a tragic accident. And it gave me the strength to carry through and to be a shoulder and to be a hard place for some other people to kind of land on. And that in turn really just kind of pushed me further into the bhakti because it helped so much. Especially, realizing that this is not necessarily the only life, that he'll be back in another body of some sort, and he'll be able to continue his journey that we had been taking together for a while. And it comforted me a lot. And so then I just kept binging it. And I'm almost caught up now at this point, and I've been starting to listen live as much as I'm able, but the blessing was incredible, and I couldn't deny that in my life. And so it really strengthened my resolve to continue learning more about bhakti.
Wonderful testimony. I'm looking forward to pumping your brain more about farming. We have really good crops down here in Spanish Fork, and we have two secrets. One is that the highest point of our property is a 200,000 gallon lake populated by koi. So we gravity feed both gardens from the rich water of the koi pond. That's our number one secret. And the other secret is we have 30 llamas, and so we shovel up the llamas, put it in a pickup truck, and we spread it all over both gardens. So due to those two practices, we have huge, just unbelievable output from what's probably about 3/4 of an acre. We just have a harvesting, and the day we harvest, we have a big tilt skillet. We cook 30 gallons at a time. We harvest it, we cut it, we cook it and we freeze it the same day, and it lasts all year. Some of these preparations last all year. Anyway,
That is excellent.
so Govinda, I know you have some juicy stories about people who brought you to the altar.
Whoa. Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to have everyone's association this morning. I don't even know where to begin with that question. I can tell you I did have the very great fortune of just kind of randomly choosing a tour company in the year 2014. It was almost exactly 7 years ago now. And my wife and I took this tour through India. And as we were looking through the itinerary of the tour, we recognized the name of every location that we were going to visit on the tour, except for this place called Vrindavan. And I told Charlotte, I think we probably are going there because Agra is like a high density city and maybe it's just cheaper lodging. That's why we're going to Vrindavan. I had no idea. And so as it turned out, the owners of this tour company that I just happened to be on this tour, they are devotees, and they just worked Vrindavan into this tour of North India so that when you arrive there, and this is what happened to us, we stayed at the MVT, which is like a 2-minute walk from the Krishna Balaram temple, and we get there, and the tour guide says, well, you might want to just wander over to the temple there just to get an idea what's going on. And so about half a dozen of us took him up on that, and when we got to the temple, there was kirtan going on. Of course, he knew that this kirtan would be going on because it goes 24/7. And it has since the 80s, if you can believe it.
Since 86. Indra started in 86.
Which is, just think about that. That's like 30 years now, 35 years. Anyway, we came to the temple and we just, we were kind of motioned, why don't you just come and join us? So we sat down in this circle, maybe 35, 40 people. And I think all of our group, but certainly I just got kind of swept up in the mood of this kirtan. And then I just decided, well, I'd never even heard of kirtan at that point. And I made a commitment when I get back to Salt Lake, I'm going to have to see if there's anybody who does kirtan there. I really, even though I'd lived in Utah since the 70s, I never really focused in on the existence of even the Spanish Fork Temple, which had been holding big color festivals already. And then I found out through Ralph Prabhu, my good friend here, that he's a Krishna devotee. He'd been a closet devotee. I didn't even know this, even though I'd known him for about 30 years. But long story short, Ralph brought me to the temple a couple of times, and then I started to meet devotees. I met Sundari Priya, I met Pavana, I met Shyam Bihari and Draupadi Rani, Rasvi Las and Amrita, Kapil and Vinita. And I have told many people that I have never, ever, and of course I met Caru and Vaibhavi, I didn't mean to leave you. I've told many people that you will not find, and I will still say, you will not find a finer group of people who will make you feel more like you are at home than you will find at the Krishna temple. And that has always been a sustaining power for me. It's always, in a way, even though I've been there hundreds and hundreds of times now, it's always kind of like magic every time you go and have the association of devotees. Just as an example, and I don't want to take too much time, but yesterday I just wanted to stop in and speak for a moment with Onkar and Govinda Bhakta because I wasn't going to be there last night. I wanted to make sure that the RT and that there'd be a kirtan. So it just so happened that was like 1:30 and I was invited for dosas. And there's a new devotee, and I don't even know her name, but she's come a number of times and she's cooking on Saturdays. Well, they sort of forced me to stay and have this incredible prasadam and had a few very nice conversations just in the space of maybe 15 minutes. And it, as it always is, visit to the Krishna temple was transformational. I felt really spiritually elevated, less connected to all the material circumstances of my life, and in a much more Krishna conscious attitude about what I was doing yesterday. So the association of many, many, many people has really contributed to my still very much increasing desire to advance in spiritual life with the Hare Krishnas.
And I have to also say, in all fairness, in the interest of balance and full disclosure, that Govinda Dev, the person who just spoke, has become an incredibly bright, shining beacon himself. Talk about attractive people to be associated or connected with. Everybody loves and revels in the association of Govinda. That's why they didn't let you just pop in and pop out. They grabbed you into prasadam because they wanted to hang out with you more. Kamo, do you have a story similar to Surabhi about people that inspired you in bhakti? Was it your parents? I know your mother's right there with you now. Or were there some iskcon devotees that you interacted with at any point also, either in India or in America? What people are milestones in your life on the way to Krishna?
So my parents have always been very spiritual, but it's not specifically been towards Krishna consciousness. So they've taught me a lot as a child. But here in Utah, when initially we started going to the Krishna temple, it was, I have to say, it was Padma Mataji who really took us in that direction, because she was the one who gave us the Bhagavatam, the beads, and she made sure we had prasadam. Half the times I would just go to pick up mom or just drop mom as like just the chauffeur. I did not really stay there too much, but she made sure that even if I'm just there to pick up or drops, like have the prasadam, then go. So she's been very loving in that, and a lot of other devotees. But now again, with the association of people like Vinita, Kapil and family, they've been very loving and very affectionate to actually involve me in a lot of the discussions and explain these scriptures to me. So I think those are the people who've really diverted my attention or directed me towards this path.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Kapil because, when we started all over the world, it's called the Hare Krishna Sunday Love Feast, the Sunday Love Feast. So when we bought the property in 2012, the school, and started having, we had a program on Sunday, but then we also, I don't remember why, but we had an alternative on Saturday also. So we had a Saturday night program at 7, which is very unusual for an iskcon temple. And then we had the Sunday program at 10, which is, what's more common throughout the world. But we found that most people in the Indian community, they preferred to come Saturday night at 7. And I know myself that amongst the Indian community, they like to go out and socialize on Saturday night because they don't have to get up or go to work the following night. And many of those gatherings are punctuated by alcohol and loose talk and, just prajalpa and all like that. So I thought, okay, well, better dovetail the propensity for going out and socializing on Saturday night with the temple. So we actually dropped the Sunday program and we put all of our emphasis on the Saturday program at 7 o'clock. And sure enough, Everybody comes from 6 to 7, and we have prasadam at 8:30. And then I'll usually be tired because I've driven up from Spanish Fork, and I'll sort of hit the sack around 9:30 or 10. Now, on a summer evening, there will be members of our congregation who gather outside in the parking lot, just doing, what they would have been doing, staying up late, not wanting to go home early, not wanting to make an early night out of it, because after all, Saturday night is the night to stay late. And I always go to sleep like 11:15, and this is on a summer night. People don't, obviously it's too cold in the winter. And I always go to sleep to the musical sound of Kapil's laughter, 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock on Saturday night. He's so friendly, so outgoing, so low. He knows everybody, between his position in human resources, surprise, surprise, at Goldman Sachs, and his position in the temple. He's just like some sort of an ambassador, some sort of a representative of Krishna in a general sense. So, Kapil, you don't have to respond to all this and all, but what is it about you that just makes you spread yourself, not thin, you spread yourself thick, and how do you do that?
Instead of saying, I'll show you. So, Prabhu, it's all the people on the screen and in this room. That's the simple answer. Vanita, she forced me to name that. Caru Prabhu took your name, so say Caru Prabhu's name, Govindadev Prabhu's name, Komal's name. So I'm just doing it because you guys took my name. I have to reciprocate and say your name for sure. And she said that this will do two good things. One, it's the sign of gratitude, but also force Pavana Mataji to take my name as well when her time.
That's a laugh I go to sleep to every Saturday night in the summer.
So it's such a simple verse, but I think not all the simple things are easy. This verse is a perfect formula as well as a perfect recipe of attaining Krishna's love and loving service, and love, service and devotion, the combo. The reason I say that is, as any perfect recipe, there are perfect ingredients. The words talk about the ingredients, which are, first one is regularity. That there is definitely an emphasis on the source, and we all know in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 34th verse, that talks about Tat Panipatena Pranipastena Sevaya, the importance of the source and the message itself, which is transcendental. But I think often people miss the regularity aspect of it. So the verse today, it says, by regular attendance in the classes of the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of your services to the pure devotees, one can attain the love. It's very simple. It's not easy because oftentimes there are a lot of distractions that we have. So if we can focus on the regularity as well as the Bhagavat aspect of it. Now, Prabhupada very nicely mentions that Bhagavat is not only the scriptures, it also the people who have influenced you. And unfortunately, we don't have the entire weekend to talk about my Bhagavat, but I think some of you know Harikesh Prabhu. He's the one who not only inspired me, but I think he created such an impression, which is long-lasting impression. And the reason I say that is, this reminds me of that same example. I may sound like a broken record. When someone goes to Prabhupada and says that, oh, Prabhupada, I can read the Bhagavad, the entire Bhagavad Gita in 1 hour, 40 minutes. And Prabhupada says that, oh, that's great. Now start living Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour, 40 minutes. And Harikesh Prabhu is a living example of someone who is not only just reading, who is not only just preaching, he is living that life. And I think that a lot of people, especially in India, And Char Prabhu, this reminds me of a story of that Billy Goat story. When people, they come and they sit in this Bhagavat, 7 days Bhagavat programs in India. And the people who are the main donors or people who are paying for the person who's presenting the Bhagavat, they sit in the first row. So I love this story where there was this one person sitting in the front row. As soon as the person started reciting Bhagavatam, the person started crying. And for continuously 7 days, non-stop, he was crying just by looking at the person who was delivering this message. So the 7th day, the person who was imparting this knowledge thought that this is a great opportunity to raise some funds or get some dakshina. So he goes to this person and says that it seems that you had a profound impact. You had the profound impact, but just by listening to my message. And he said, yes, right from the very first day. The very first day, I had a Billy goat that she passed away, and your beards, that reminds me of my goat. And the very first day, I started looking at you. Every time when I see you, I cry. So it definitely, the source is much, much more important. We talked about Sundari Priya Mataji, we talked about a lot of other people. If you live 2 lives, then you won't impact, or the impact may not be a long-lasting impact. There is not a single class, there is not a single discussion when we read Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita, where sometimes I directly mention about Harikesh Prabhu, and sometimes I feel very happy that I got the association and I got this inspiration to take the word forward. Like my plate is served, and I just want to share and distribute among my family and my friends who are like my family.
I remember we had a festival of color, and Harikesh came, and he worked in the kitchen for 2 days like a slave. He just made sure all the prasadam was distributed, the dishes were washed, everything was resupplied. He heated up preparations. He worked in the background nonstop, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And I went in on Sunday afternoon. I said, you know, your devotion, your sacrifice, your seva this weekend has been super excellent, just above and beyond. And he stood there and he started to cry. He started just bawling right in the middle of the kitchen. I said, what? And then he put it back on me. He said, I'm doing nothing. He said, you and Bhai Bobby are doing so much. I'm just like a mosquito on the head of the bull that's plowing the field. So, of course, I don't accept that. What we do, we could only do with the help of really devoted, unselfish people like Harikesh. But just to show you, you know, the humility and the genuine devotion, I wanted to add that to what you'd already said about Harikesh. And of course, you know, the overriding example is Srila Prabhupada, of course. Now I heard there are about 3,000 different translations and commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita in the English language. When Prabhupada came in 1965, there were 700. And some of those had been published as early as the 1800s, when Emerson and Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson discovered the Bhagavad Gita. Ever since then, the Western world has had a fascination for the Gita, and there have been many, many editions and translations and commentaries. But until Prabhupada came, there was not a single Christian devotee. 699 Bhagavad Gitas, and not one of them turned people to Krishna. Now, the speaker of the Gita is Krishna. The goal of the Gita is Krishna. The message of the Gita is bhakti, to serve Krishna as his part and parcel. And so because not one devotee of Krishna was made through those 699 editions of the Bhagavad Gita, we conclude that they were not actually the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe the translation was okay because it's very simple language. You can't go too far off base with the translation, but the commentaries, those who are giving the purports and the meanings of the verses, completely misled people away from the speaker of the Gita and the goal of the Gita. So it was Prabhupada, as a practicing devotee, who established the Bhagavad Gita as it is, established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, initiated 4,500 young people during the time he was with us who wanted what he had, and then his own disciples. Omkar told me last night that Radhanath Swami has 10,000 disciples. Jayapataka Maharaj has 40,000 disciples. So this all comes because the person Bhagavat came to the Western countries. And I think we'll all agree there are some pretty fantastic things in the Gita and the Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma riding on a swan, Lord Vishnu with 4 arms lying on the back of Sheshanaga with his lotus feet being massaged by Lakshmi, Lord Shiva in the crematoriums doing penances. The whole story of creation, that Brahma came from a lotus flower sprouting from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. I mean, if we had heard these from any other person, an academicist, a professor, or a layman, we would be like, a swan, Lord Brahma riding a swan? Are you serious? You know? And yet Prabhupada had the realization. He knew that God would be, by definition, fantastic. If we could understand how he does things and the way he does things, then he wouldn't be God. You know, our little brain cannot comprehend all the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Prabhupada started from that point, that you cannot, God is inconceivable. He's beyond the range of your senses. And at the same time, he made it all seem totally believable. Because of his own realization, he would talk about going to the spiritual world as comfortably and as confidently as we would talk about the short drive from the temple to Home Depot or to Harmon's. And it's that experience, it's that realization, it's that being right in the middle of the culture and the philosophy that emboldens us and encourages us to follow wherever he would lead.
Yeah. Caru, this reminds me one of your examples from Australia, in the first visit by Srila Prabhupada to Australia, or in the second one, where by this time you already read Prabhupada's book and you were the in charge. And we knew that Prabhupada is going to come there and talk to the college students, might talk to the media, to the television. But in the entire process, you gave an example that you just want to have the glimpse of Prabhupada for that moment when he's not Bhagavat, like where he's relaxed. And he disappointed you, Charu.
Never happened, never came.
Well, there's a huge difference between somebody who knows the words and somebody who knows. And I gather, although I never had the privilege, that when Prabhupada spoke, you knew that he knew. He wasn't telling you something that he was getting out of books. He actually knew it. And when somebody speaks with that kind of authority, you know, there's something in the Bible that Jesus spoke as one with authority. I mean, you can't deny that. There's something that's communicated with that kind of authority. One other little thing, I didn't know that the number of Prabhupada's disciples was 4,500, so I just did the math. Over 12 years, from 1965 to 1977, 12 years, that's 375 disciples per year. That's just a little bit more than one a day, like a one a day vitamin. Every single day for 12 years, a new disciple. On top of, you know, a few other things that he was doing, like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, 80 other books, and organizing the structure of iskcon. I mean, the contribution is just inconceivable. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bo. Prabhupada is the spiritual master, and coming up next Wednesday is the celebration of Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Lord Nityananda is the original spiritual master. He's the original soul of compassion, of unselfishness, of preaching. So ultimately, the attractiveness of the personalities who lead us to the path of Krishna consciousness, some or other, they're all engineered, put into place, and directed by Lord Nityananda Prabhu from within the heart. So if we have some gratitude that we've met the right people, people that challenge us, spiritualize us, purify us, take us on to the next level, then take some time to either visit the temple for the Nityananda celebration next Wednesday, or at least give him a thought, or look him up in the Bhagavatam or the Chaitanya Charita or online, and read a little bit about Lord Nityananda next Wednesday. Surabi, do you want to read the second paragraph of the purport here and make any comments that you like?
Sure, Prabhu. The devotee's Bhagavata is the direct representative of Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavata, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavata. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are the facts explained by Srila Narad Dev, who happened to be the maidservant's son in the previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of sages, and thus he also came in contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality Srila Narad Dev. These are the miraculous effects of association of Bhagavata. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he comes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The message of the book Bhagavat therefore has to be received from the devotees Bhagavat, and the combination of these two, Bhagavat, will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on.
Any thoughts?
Devotion definitely looks like it is the last and ultimate, but it comes very easily, and you can progress easily in the devotional path. So I feel like Gyan, Yoga, and others are more difficult than just to surrender to the God and become a devotional person altogether.
Yeah, the bottom line is that you can't achieve liberation on your own. Mental speculation, fruitive work, or materialistic activities. You can't do materialistic activities and get liberation. But when you meet a liberated person, then it's possible. Just like there may be 1,000 people and they're all tied up in ropes. Their hands and legs are bound. So what can they do? You know, if you're bound, you can't help another bound person. Mental speculation, fruitive activity, that's what bound you up in the first place. So that's not going to bring about your liberation. That's not going to bring about your freedom. So you need at least one person who's not tied up, who's not bound by Raja, Tamas, and Sattva, who's not bound up by the modes of material nature. Then one person can go around and he can untie all the other people. And that's why Prabhupada over and over and over goes back to the point, the unavoidable point, that you, number one, you cannot achieve the perfection of life on your own. You need the help of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that help comes in the person of the spiritual master. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Latabi says that when one gets the human form of life and then uses the human form of life to make a serious inquiry as to the purpose and the goal of human form of life, and then he wants to find God, he wants to find answers, and God then satisfies his prayers by sending him a bona fide spiritual master. So when the sense of inquiry and a longing to solve the problems of life becomes intense from within, then God answers that hankering by sending the spiritual master from without. And who do we go back to over and over and over again in the Srimad Bhagavatam? What Bhagavat do we owe probably more quotes, more inspiration, not only us, but the characters in the Bhagavatam themselves, who is always coming by to sprinkle them with these drops of wisdom? Who is the ultimate person Bhagavat? Over and over and over again, they come up, he comes up.
So Narad Muni, Vyasdev.
Narada Muni, who can glorify Narada Muni? I can say one thing. You know, we always hear about in Christianity, Jesus, very few quotes actually from Jesus. Not very much about Jesus at all. Just the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, 32 pages. So if you look at it, the person who wrote most of the New Testament was Paul, not Jesus. So most of the quotes that we recite are given by Narada Muni, whether it's in the 4th canto, the 5th canto, the 8th canto, the 9th canto, the 10th canto. It's Narada Muni, Narada Muni, Narada Muni, Narada Muni, Narada Muni, Narada Muni. He's so much the person Bhagavat. So what can we say glorifying Narada Muni then? Lord Jesus Christ said, what profit if man he gains the whole world but loses eternal soul? 3,000 years before then, Narada Muni said, Chakva Shardhanam Charanam Bhujamhari Bhajana Pakva Tapadet Yatra Kava Bhara Bhutami Kovartaptam Bhajatam Shadharmataha. Same thing. He said it 3,000 years before Lord Jesus Christ. He said a moment spent in Krishna consciousness makes your life perfect, whereas an entire lifetime spent in pursuing mental speculation, fruitive activity is a waste of time. So maybe, I don't think we can have this discussion without throwing out some glorification of Narada Muni.
Caru, the one thing that comes to the mind is the power of association. You always, like Narad Muni is one who comes to the mind. Then you say that sometimes people, they may not have the best birth possible in the well-to-do families, both from a material point of view or a spiritual point of view. But it's just the association. I think that's what Prabhupada is mentioning in the paragraph, in the second paragraph, that because his mother was always constantly serving and in association of Maharshis and Munis, so this process comes to him naturally. And then he's such a loving Parshad, one should say, or the associate, that in most of the pastimes, when Lord wants to perform a pastime, here comes Narad Muni to set the stage, because even Lord needs someone to go and set the stage, put everything in the order, all the characters, tell them their narrative, the role that they are going to play in the narrative, and then Krishna or Lord Ram comes. So I think he plays a very important role of that stage manager, that who comes before most of the pastimes to make sure that everyone is ready to contribute.
Yeah, and sometimes even, he even made Kamsa kill the sons of Devaki. Kamsa was going to wait. He was going to wait for the 8th son, but Narada Muni said, you never know. It could be any of them. So he's just turning up the flame under the fire to make the preparation finish sooner, to make Krishna come sooner, you know. Even sometimes he seems like he's up to mischief, but it's all in order to precipitate the descent of the Lord on the earth planet.
So in that particular pastime, he used the analogy of a flower, and he says that, oh, how do you know which petal is the first or the 8th? It could be the 8th.
And then he also got cursed. You know, he took Daksha's sons away. Daksha wanted all of his sons to get married so he could have children and grandchildren. And Narada met them and spoke to them, and they all took sannyas. And Daksha was so angry that he cursed Narada Muni. You'll never be able to stay in one place for more than 5 minutes. So from the point of view of an attached householder, that's the worst. That's the worst curse that you could ever give anybody, that you won't ever get comfortable. You'll never get stuck within 4 walls with wife, children, family, relatives, and everything. And Narada Muni, that's exactly what he wanted. He remains unattached. He travels by the mercy of the Lord unrestrictedly throughout the material and the spiritual worlds. And you mentioned regular service, uninterrupted service. You know, Narada Muni, after having been cursed by Daksha, according to the arrangement of the Lord, he never is going to get comfortable anywhere. He can only stay 5 minutes, and then he has to go somewhere else. So there's never an interruption in his service brought on by family affairs or comfortable living, or, you know, for Narada Muni, there's no saunas, there's no spas, there's no family reunions, there's no kids to educate. There's only devotional service, loving devotional service, every minute of every day, and it goes on eternally.
So we have someone on the screen, Ina Mataji. She is another example of love and service and devotion. So we want to hear from her as well.
Jai Ho.
Now, as you people said, when Kapil said about Narad Muni, and when Charu Prabhu said about that he could not stay more than 5 minutes, I took it as like Narad Muni got blessing in disguise.
Exactly.
Like he did not get attached to anybody, and that was the most powerful thing what came up in his life.
And that's what we have to be careful. We have to take care of our relatives, our kids, our parents. We have a sacred duty. Our students, if you're a politician, we have to take care of our constituents. But we can't be narrow-minded. We can't just care about those with whom we have a bodily attachment. The example of Narada Muni and all the sannyasis and all the renunciates, they're not against love and affection. Don't misunderstand. They're not against serving others, but they get out of the family situation so they can serve everybody without any partiality or any discrimination. And nobody is a better servant in this regard than Narada Muni. You know, you come to somebody's house and you give them some very valuable knowledge or association. So they want to reward you. Oh, please, we have a guest room. We'll cook for you. We have a spa. We're right next to a park. You can take walks in the morning. You know, at that point, Narada Muni has to leave. He doesn't get to accept the gratitude of any people whose lives he's changed. He only has 5 minutes in which to give. That 5 minutes does not allow any time to get. So, as you said, he was cursed, but it's a blessing in disguise, because giving is more blessed than the receiving. And the nature of the curse was that Narada Muni is cursed in quotes, blessed, to always be giving and never ever hanging around to get lulled into comfort and complacency by accepting the gratitude of those whose lives he's changed.
I'd just like to add one more thing for Narad Muni, that he did, like he said, at times he would feel that he's a little mischievous. So he did all of these tasks without thinking what somebody else would actually make of him or talk about him, because a lot of times the example of Narad Muni in loose talk is used when somebody is doing something mischievous. They're like, don't hear Narad Muni. It's very sad because they do not know the real nature of Narad Muni, the intention behind all of these acts, but the fact that he knew what he was doing and he would do it irrespective of what somebody else would think, because he knew that he's doing something to fulfill a bigger task and to actually have God's things done in a certain way.
Yeah. And sometimes Narada Muni appears in the movies with the little things and the Sika that's oiled and sticking straight up in the air going Narayan, Narayan, you know. And people like to say that in casual conversation, but little realizing the weight, the huge impact Narada Muni has had throughout the ages and throughout all the planets, has at the present moment, and will continue to have indefinitely into the future. So Narada Muni ki jai. Any other points? Rob, what's your takeaway? Can you wrap it up for us, Rob, before we go to the kirtan? Poor Rob, I always ask him.
It's good for me. It's good for me.
You've done a great job articulating our conclusions the last few weeks, so I'm coming back to you.
I definitely I really like the 5 minutes of giving, and not, he's not waiting around to receive. That's like the heart of service. If you're doing service in order to receive, you're not really doing service. You end up getting your payment through either the gratitude from the people that you've served, or it puffs up your false ego when serving in that way. You're not doing it for the right reasons. So I really appreciate that. That's a good message that I definitely need to take away, because I've definitely been guilty of performing service for the satisfaction I get from people being grateful for what I've done. And I've heard something on the Wisdom of the Sages is doing something without people knowing, like performing service without someone knowing that you're performing service is the best way to do it, because then you're doing it from a better mindset. You're doing it for Krishna. You're doing it for the right reasons. And I do appreciate that. So that's I think that's my biggest takeaway from today.
You did it again. You hit the nail right on the head again. So count on it. We're going to go back to you time and time again to give us our last word for the week. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
That was like nectar to my ears. Okay, Pavani, get ready for the kirtan. Let me share what Jai Sri Radhe has said. She pointed out that Srivas Thakur, in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a member of the Panchatattva, the Absolute Truth in 5 different phases, it is Srivas Thakur who himself is an incarnation of Narada Muni. So thank you very much for pointing that out, Jai Sri Radhe. Thank you for joining us, Jai Sri Radhe, William Griffith, as well as Divya Joshi and a few other. We've got 11 likes, 10. Let me just tell you who has joined us from Facebook. Jai Sri Radhe, Divya Joshi. Oh, Govinda, you managed to be with us on Facebook as well. Good job. Karuna Sindhu, thank you. William Griffith, Mahatma, Dharma Bhavana, Kusham Demon, Bhakti Gary, and Sanjay Dumyan, D-U-M-Y. Thank you all for being with us on Facebook Live. Thank you for your comments. I can only see 4. The others have dropped down, but we'll respond and answer to them. This has been the weekly Zoom Salt Lake City Sanga. Our topic was regularly hearing the Bhagavatam from the Bhagavatas. And thanks to all of you, Bhagavatas, also for inspiring me and each and every one of us in devotional service.
Caru, Govinda Dev Prabhu was making sure that you are broadcasting what you are recording. Caru, among those 11, how many likes are on my comments?
Well, what you can do is you can take a stopwatch and you can go back and then you can see when the comments came, at what time. And you can see if that coordinates with your comments. And let us know next week. Because if there aren't any likes with your comments, then we don't want to hear from you anymore.
If you have time to do that, then I'm going to tell them at Goldman Sachs they need to keep you busy.
And I'm telling you, you haven't lived unless you've gone to sleep Saturday night, summer evening, 11 o'clock, with the window to the parking lot cracked open, hearing the musical sound of that laugh. 10:30, 11, 11:30 at night on a Saturday summer evening.
Well, we should have a sleepover sometime.
We should all sleep in the rooms all along, the ones that butt the parking lot with the windows cracked.
Oh.
And another sound that's music to the ears of the conditioned souls is that of Pavana leading a sweet kirtan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pavana. Thank you, Radhe Sham.
Very welcome.
Govinda Dev. Thank you. Greg. Thank you. Sarabi. Thank you. Kapilji, Ishan, Shivan, Vinita. Thank you. Kamala, Veena. Thank you. Rob. Thank you all for your Sangha on this Sunday morning. Coming up again, Nityananda Trayodasi, this coming Wednesday, celebrating the original personality of compassion, the original spiritual master. And we'll be back with you a week from today. In the meantime, please accept my obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, kripasindhubhyeva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namaha.
Namo namaha.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.